There's a twist about the Russia-Ukraine peace deal that a lot of people may not want to hear. I'm aware that everybody and their mother thinks that Ukraine has been completely forgotten and neglected by Trump, and NATO is going to be in total disarray. The most shocking thing the media keeps telling us about is that neither Ukraine nor any other European country was allowed to take part of this deal. And even though the Russia-Ukraine war is taking place on European soil, the deal was conducted in Saudi Arabia. While we don't know exactly what was agreed upon, we do know that Russia's wish list was that Ukraine would never join NATO, and that if there was some kind of ceasefire, the peacekeepers could not be from any European or NATO country. But here's the kicker. America could make whatever deal they want with Russia about Ukraine, but it means nothing if Ukraine and the rest of NATO doesn't agree with it. NATO has been preparing for US to not cooperate for well over a year, so their budget and their stores are stocked to support Ukraine no matter what the US does. And remember that NATO, even without the United States, still has the most elite militaries on the planet. You have the UK, you have France, Germany, Sweden when it comes to Arctic warfare. You also have a very well-armed and well-trained Poland that is dying to give Russia what they deserve. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, said that they are ready to put their own troops on the ground in Ukraine to protect peace. So even though this deal between Russia and the United States makes us look like complete and total diplomatic scum, because that's what we're being right now, it doesn't mean that Russia's going to win. In fact, it may mean Russia is going to be completely taken by storm by a European resistance. And I'm not saying that all of Europe is going to invade Russia, but I would not be surprised if we started to see other European countries, primarily ones in NATO, promise to put boots on the ground in Ukraine and most likely support further Ukrainian invasions into Russia. And I'm sure if that happened, Putin would implore the United States to please stop NATO from doing this, and our representatives would most likely say, our hands are tied, there's nothing we can really do with our allies. With all this happening, just remember the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, has said that the Trump administration is absolutely committed to NATO, and he has also applauded Trump's leadership on Ukraine, and he tells Europe to get their act together. So why on earth is the head of NATO supporting what Donald Trump is doing? It's an unfortunate fact that for decades, the United States has been carrying NATO while they have been doing none of the heavy lifting. Unfortunately, it took the strategic threat of a Trump presidency the first and second time to get NATO countries to actually start lifting their weight. And let's not forget the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who just endorsed the full territorial integrity for Ukraine. Remember that Turkey is right here. They share some of the Black Sea with Russia right up here, and the Turks don't like that all too much. Let's not forget that Turkey and Russia looked like bosom buddies for over a decade, and then all of a sudden, within about a month and a half ago, Turkey kicked out the Assad regime of Syria, which was one of Russia's key allies. Now, why wasn't this deadly blow against Russia's ability to project power done under the Biden administration? My opinion, and my opinion only, is that all of this is just a long culmination to take down the Putin regime. We've been watching this seesaw tilting for 3 years straight. First, the war going to Russia's favor, then to Ukraine, then to Russia, then to Ukraine. It looked like Russia was going to eliminate Ukraine completely, and then all of a sudden, Ukraine launched a successful invasion of Russia in Kursk. And they're still there. And then just when it looks like the Ukrainians will be routed in Russia and Russians will gain more Ukraine territory, Turkey helps fund the movement that kicks out the Assad regime and cripples a lot of Russia's ability to project power in that region. And now we witness this talk between the US and Russia that makes Russia look like they're going to win again. But what happens if the UK actually puts their troops on the ground in Ukraine? They are better equipped and much better trained than the Russians. And if the UK does that, I would not be surprised if Poland followed right after. And don't forget, Trump has been asking the Saudis to increase oil production. Now, the Saudis have not yet opened the taps to increase their supply, but if they did, that would crush the price of oil. It would hurt the American economy for a little bit, but it would devastate the Russians' ability to fund their war machine. Last but not least, we cannot ignore the threat of Russia using nuclear bombs. Or maybe we can, because since the beginning of the war in 2022, Putin has threatened to deploy nukes after certain red lines were crossed. And since then, every single one of those red lines have been crossed. It's not because Putin is any kind of humanitarian. He either knows he would get completely obliterated, or maybe he doesn't know which of his nukes actually work. I am the Geo Husar. Remember that no deal matters unless Ukraine is in on it and Why does the head of NATO support what's currently taking place? If you find the post I just made useful, educational, informative, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube, but the strongest form of support that you can give me would be signing up for my Patreon. Thanks.